Okay, so I will record this by just using Zoom. So I guess I can just put them half of the screen just in case someone is coming in. So today we are going to have lecture 19, which is about data presentation. So this lecture, I would say it is less scientific, but it is more about sharing of my experience of making a presentation or making slides or something like that. So I will not ask questions about this lecture in the quiz or in the exam. So you guys can just take it for relax. And here are the table of contents. So first, I would like to talk about beauty or beautifulness. Like I would like to introduce 6 principles to make the things looks better, in my opinion. Then I will talk about something about the text and the color. And then for most of the slides or posters, we may put the pictures and the text together. So I would like also share some of the experience about the layout of text and image. So first, we have these 3 pictures or 3 paintings. So I have a question, like, which one would you like best for you guys? And you guys may type in the chat. Like, let's say on the left, it is 1, on the middle is 2, and that one is number 3. So wait, for you guys, how about this one? You guys like this one? How about this one? Second. How about the last one? Second. Do you like the third one? And we can see like Olivia and Isabella, they also like third one. So can you tell us what is this about? Like, what's your feeling about the third one?
It reminds me, it looks like a wall with moss growing on it, and it reminds me of the Western Wall.
Oh, yeah, that's good interpretation. So here I just want to show like these 3 pictures. This is, I would say, relatively concrete. So we know this is a back of a girl. And for this one, we can say, I think it should be something about a scenario, but it is hard to interpret. But for the last one, for me, I think it's a little bit chaotic. It's like just spray the colors on the wall. But I mean, we can say we have different favorites or different understandings for each of the painting, and one favorite paintings. So in this case, I just want to show that beauty is subjective. Like different people, we have different experience, we have different cultural backgrounds. So we may have different appreciation to different things. So beauty is case by case. So sometimes it is not polite to say someone's sense of beauty is bad or something. So here the first principle is subjective. And then let's look at the second principle. So if most people think it is beautiful, then it is beautiful. Because for some of the cases, we do not have idea about what would be the beautiful one. So at that time, we may just choose the one that people think that is beautiful. For example, in the lecture slides, I may use some of these animals. So actually, I want to image-lize, or I want to make these parameters more concrete. So I was thinking about using some of the animals. But for the real animal, I'm not sure which are cute or not. So I just use the animals from the Pokemon. So at least I know that they are popular over the world. So I think most of you guys may like it. Thanks. And also, I think the properties of the Pokemon matches the properties of each of these parameters a lot. Like for this one, this duck can fly and it can stay in the water. So it represents Henry's constant, which is a partitioning coefficient between air and water. Now let's look at the third one. Professional designers have better sense of beauty than average. The keyword is design, of course, but they should also be professional, because some people, they will say I'm a designer, but their work may hard to say. The professional designers, because they are making the design for a living. So they would say only when, like most of the people or many of the people think their work is good, they can earn money. So I guess everyone's here, I can make it as a full screen. Okay. Maybe. Okay, that's good. And because of this, actually, we can learn from professional designers, like from their work. For example, we can learn from the posters and the magazines and the websites or the advertisements. And we can see that, like, we can learn how they put the text and image together, and how they manage the text, and how they make the style of these pictures consistent, and how they manage the colors of the text with the picture. And I will talk about it a little bit later. And when I was young, I like this style very much. So they just put the text together. And I also tried this slide, like in 2003, like 8 years ago. So I put all of the text into a big text. And I spent half an hour to make this. So this is a presentation about the PowerPoint design. Okay, anyway, the next one is consistency makes it beautiful. And we can see one example is the color of the text is consistent with the color of this label. And another example is that when we are making PowerPoint slides, sometimes we will look for templates. And if we put all of this template together, we can see that the style and the color of the slides, they are consistent. So I would say the nature of the slide template is consistency. So when we are making slides, it would be better to try to make our slides looks like visually consistent. Here is another example. And this is slide made by my friend. And we can see this is the introduction of the properties of Hutong architecture. And there are its properties. And the Hutong architecture, that is a like traditional Chinese architecture. Because my undergrad major was civil engineering. So I know some of the friends from architecture. So anyway, from this slide, we can see the information it want to show is the properties. And we can see for this slide itself, for the background, it use a notebook. And we can see the notebook is like frequently used in the slide. But when she asked me, I gave her some suggestions and I changed the slide into this. And so in this case, I didn't change the content of the slides, but I changed the background into a more traditional Chinese painting, because the theme is about traditional Chinese architecture. So I want to make sure the content and the background or the atmosphere, they are consistent. Although this background does not tell any information, but it makes it looks better. Also, the colors I choose, like the colors I chosen, comes from the traditional Chinese color. I will talk about the color later. So you may like, because this slide is originally for the Chinese, that's why the English is still in the vertical way. But we know that it is hard to read in English in this direction. So this is another example in my slide. So this is from the first lecture, and I was talking about the laboratory. So in this case, because the background is a blackboard, So when I type in the text, I just choosing the handwriting text here. So do you guys have any questions? No? Okay. So in this way, I cannot see the chat. Let me just check the chat. Okay. And okay. Here shows another example. So this is a slide of heavy metal. And we can see in this case, I make the pictures looks consistent. Like we can see they are pretty aligned, especially of the edges and of the vertical position. And here you may also ask, like for this one, they are not equal, like they do not align, and especially for this one. So in this case, I did this for two reasons. So first, I tried to trim these pictures, but if I trim these pictures, the picture itself will look worse, like in my opinion. On the other hand, I think the inconsistency, like we have some differences within the array of these pictures, can also make it looks less boring. So the fifth principle, I would say, inconsistency makes it beautiful. So this is a little bit contradict with the consistency. So basically, we may need to find the balance between consistency and inconsistency. And here is a very classical example of the rose. We only have the color of the rose, like the flower itself, and we can say it can enhance the feeling of the sadness of love, something like that. You guys may have different feelings. And similarly, in the slides, I also have something like this. We can say we have black backgrounds, and this one is highly emphasized. So the deadline is very important. So let's go back to this slide. We can see that actually this slide is also applies the principle. We can see we have a black background and we have a red thing that I want to emphasize. And again, so actually this slide looks simple, but when I was making this slides, my brain is like this. And actually the color of this picture matches the color of this. So, okay. So the last question is, the last principle is, there are always exceptions. So as we mentioned these 5 principles, but I would say they are not always true. Like we should also be open-minded for new things, or we should be creative. And here's an example of my major. So this shows the animation styles, like Japanese animation styles change with time. We can see that they have different appearance. And in this case, we can see, let's just say at 1990s, like the style, like the main style is like this. And we can see we have this main style probably because the majority of the audience, they prefer that style. On the other hand, the professional designers, they may also think that style looks better. Also, the professional designers, they think that style can make money, can have a very good sales. So they and then this one become the main choice of the designers. And this is the same for this one. So we need to, like sometimes we need to think about new things and try to be creative. And so here are more detailed example. We can see they are from the same anime and they are the same character. And this is 1995. Oops. and this is 2007. So that is about 10 years. And we can see the drawing styles are pretty different among these 10 years. But let's say another one. So this is the anime in 2009, and this is another anime in 2020, like last year. We can see that during these 10 years, the animation style does not change a lot. So they look almost the same. So I would say during these 10 years, maybe they're not quite creative, or they didn't find a better drawing styles. But I'm also curious about what will be the styles in the future. And here shows a more daily life examples. We can see in the old days, like for the iPhone, the style of the icons, like the style is schemorphism style. So the icons itself, I try to be realistic and try to look as the real thing. But I think in 2013 or 14, like the style of the iPhone or iOS becomes something like the flag design. And so it is simple and it is more colorful, I would say. But sometimes we can see for this iTunes store, if I'm not an iPhone user, when I see this icon itself, I cannot recognize what it is. So it has good and bad. But anyway, the change of style, we would say this is a designer's choice. So if we are making some pictures or find something, we may just use a flag style pictures, and it is safe to say it can be looks good. And again, I'm also interested in what will be the style in the future. So far, do you guys have any questions or any comments? Chat? No, okay. So the next, we have finished all the principles. So the next, I'm like to talk about some specific topics. And during this discussion, I would like to use some of the principles mentioned here. So first, for the text style, we have the font. And for the font, mainly we have these two classifications, like the sans serif and the serif font. And the difference is this part. So I have a question for you guys. Which type of the font is in your phone? Do you guys sans serif? Yes. Do you guys think why? Yes.
Well, starting like stars of being on a severity scale of things, having the actual stars on letters, they add more visual distraction to like what you're reading. So on smaller screen, clarity is everything, which makes a sensor.
Yes. Let me just see if they have any answers in the chat. No. Okay. Yes. So as you mentioned, the sans serif font is originally designed for the display. Yes. You mean? Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. Let me just make it on the camera zone. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So sans serif font is originally designed for the display. You know, in the ancient time, the screen has very low resolution. So this is more optimized for the display. On the other hand, for this one, I did some research. So for serif font, like we have this serifs, and they are optimal for photocopy, because in the old time, the photocopy machine was not very good. So they may have some shift of the letter. By having this one, this makes the photocopied letters more readable. But I think for now, as the technology developed, we have better displays and we have better photocopiers. So I think it doesn't influence too much. But again, if we are choosing a font for the presentation for other work, we can just see what's the professional designer's choice. And again, the font uses sans serif font. So it is better to use this one if we are using the slide or things for the screen. And here shows the two commonly used font. And this one is Calibri, and this one is Times New Roman. And I put them in the display because I want to show that for the display, it has relatively low resolution. It is usually 1080p. And from this one, I personally would say this one would be more readable than this one. I'm not sure you guys' feelings, but it is subjective sometimes. Okay. So the next topic is about reason. So we know that the music has a reason, but actually the text itself, it also has the reason visually. So here shows some of the examples. We can see that for each English letter, they have their different visual effects. And I would say the main difference between the uppercase and the lowercase is that the lowercase has different heights, but for the uppercase, they are consistent in height. So if we are putting all of these letters together, we may have different visual effects of this word. And for some of, and we can also put a lot of them together and we can have different reasons here. And I think for me, like if all of the words are in uppercase, I think it make it harder to read than the lowercase. I'm not sure how you guys feel. Similar?
Depends on the format.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a lot of too hard to read, but I do like uppercase for like added reasons.
Oh yeah. Makes sense. And here are some more examples. So actually, it depends on which style we want to choose. And we can also learn from like for some of the posters or the brochures or tickets, something like that. Again, we can learn from the professionals of their work to see how did they manage the text together. And in this case, we have the consistency and inconsistency. Consistency is for the similar for the same, like for the text of the same importance. But for the inconsistency, we want to separate different contents. And when I was making this slide, like several years ago, I also tried to apply that visual effect to make this slide. So this is a picture taken from the Washington, D.C. in the cherry blossom, like 4 or 3 years ago, before the COVID. And I just put the letters or the words of different size here. And actually, this is the first slide of my PhD proposal, because you know my PhD work is about the pesticides or the DDT in the soil. So this slide, I was saying that we have very good cherry blossom in Washington, D.C. One of the reasons that keep these cherry flowers very good was pesticides. It can protect them from being damaged by the bugs. And so my research is about pesticides. And for the pesticides, we have the organic chlorinated pesticides, and they are shown here. And I think you guys have been working with DDD, DDD, and DDE of your homework. Yes. So when I was making this slide, I applied the principle of consistency. We can see that the color of this banner and the style of the cherry flower, they matches. So they looks more consistent. Another example, like, so every the front page of each slide actually apply the reasons of the text, we can see that if we look at this slide, of course, we will notice this first. But but the next important one is this one. So this is a title of the lecture. And then we have like different informations here. And so in this case, if I make this very symmetric, I will think it is a little bit boring. So I want to make it more inconsistent. So I just add this animation here to make it symmetric. And again, this is the same for the table of contents of each of the slides. Then let's take a look at colors. So about the text, do you guys have any questions or comments? No? So let's take a look at the colors. So basically, we have two models to describe a color. One is RGB model, and another one is CMY model. Do you guys know what's the difference between these two? Yes.
Yeah, so the RGB model is basically blue, green, red to create colors. They're largely more specified for, let's say, for seeing things on the screen because these LEDs and they can only produce red, green, or blue. But on the contrary, when it comes to the CMY model, cyan, yellow, magenta is more used for printing because the way that printing works is that you end up kind of using negatives of colors to create different colors. So print work, you use that set of colors to be able to create the opposite.
Great. Yes. So basically, RGB model are the combination of lights, and CMYK model are the combination of the dyes. So so here we have a K here. So if we have a color printer, we may notice that we have this like we have the cartridge of these three colors, but we may have the fourth cartridge with black color. So we have this. So anyway, let's say any color can be expressed as RGB, like especially in the screen. And we can see these two models, they are interchangeably. So we can transform one color in RGB model to CMYK model. And here I have a star. I will talk about why I have this star later. So anyway, so in the color, in the PowerPoint, if we are defining a color, we may have an interface like this. And in this case, if we choose a color and we can select the color model, and then we can assign a value of this color. On the other hand, we can use these values to describe this color. And if we are trying different values, we can see that it tells us the measurement must be between 0 and 255. In other words, for each of the color, they are not consistent, like in this case. And so basically, we can describe 255 qubit numbers of colors in Excel or in the screen. But we can also notice that, like for this picture, we can see they have different small cells, and we would expect that each cell have different color. But if we are looking at this picture, they almost the same color, and maybe they are also the same color, right? They are supposed to be different, but they look the same. Why? Because when we are having a monitor or having a projector, they may not be able to recreate all of the colors because like their hard devices or their lights may have some limitations. And so in reality, although we can use RGB to describe all of the color, but our screen, our monitor or the projector, they may not able to recreate these colors. And like when we are buying a monitor, we may usually see that the monitor will say like it has 90% of sRGB or like 99% of sRGB. So sRGB represents standard RGB. So that is the most frequently used, like the color gamuts in the world. So like different screen has different color ranges, and usually more expensive screen has a larger color gamut. And we can see some of the professional screens, they may say they have Adobe RGB. So that is better. So anyway, let's go back to the colors. So in the Excel, no matter it is on Windows or on iOS, they will give us the colors to choose like this. So basically, when we want to do the contrast or we want to show different categories, we can just choose the color horizontally. For example, I have different labels here, or it may not be quite obvious on the projector. So in this case, I have different categories, so I can choose the color horizontally. On the other hand, if I want to show the gradient or want to show the different values or different importance, I can choose the color vertically. Like for the labels here, they are of different levels. But so they are the designer's choice, like the designer of the PowerPoint. So it is safe to use. And it is, but I would say there are always exceptions. And I personally think these colors are ugly because it is subjective. So I would say we can do it better. For example, we can just go to the Google image and search color palette plus a keyword. For example, let's just open the Google image and then we have the color palette. And then we can just type any of the keywords. For example, like as I shown before, we have the traditional Chinese color. Oops. Then it will show the picture like this. So we can have the traditional Chinese color of different levels. And again, we can also try some other things. Like for example, we are interested in the pizza. So we can try the color palette of pizza. And we can see we have different colors of pizza here. So sometimes we may working with the plants or flowers. Maybe we can just assign like very specific flowers like the rose. Like we can like it like this. We may also we can define the object, but we can also define a feelings like cute. So here shows the cute colors, and I think they are cute. But we can also try like sad. Like I feel sad, I want to make the slide very sad. And then I can choose these colors. And again, we may just choose like USA, the color, the USA color. So again, let's just say like Hawaii. For example, I want to make the slide looks cute. So I can just choose, say, this one. So in this case, I can right click and copy image. And then I have the slide here. This one. Let me just quit. And then I want to change my color style. So in this case, I can just paste, oops, copy, and then paste. I didn't paste. Yeah, I can paste image here. And then I want to change the color of my labels here. So in this case, I can double click this object, and then I can choose this eyedropper. So this one, so for this one, I can just put it here. And then it will become the color of this one. Similarly, I can change the color of this one by using this one. Whoops. And I can change the color of this one to here. So I can have the colors of different layers based on this one. So by using this way, we can use the color looks better than the default color. And we can just personalize it based on our preference or based on the content of the slide. And so for this one, do you guys have any questions? No? Okay. So actually, when I was making this slide, or actually when I was making every slide, I use this principle. But for this one, we can see the color of this text is taken from the color of the projector. So actually we can choose any of the colors, but I would also say that when we are deciding the color, we may also think about the colorblind people. So in this case, we can see from their point of view, they have different colors, especially of the red color and the green color. So when we are presenting some of the scientific graphs or plots, sometimes we may need to be cautious to use red and green color together because they may look the same for these people. So for more information, you guys may read this kind of article. This article talk about like the UI design with consideration of the color blind. So for the colors, do you guys have any questions? No? And the last topic is about when putting text and image together. And in this case, this is a website, the main website of a animation, of a Japanese animation. And from this picture, we can see this is the main character, of course. And in the picture, we have this cherry, the flakes of the cherry flower. And we can also see that this slide has a text here, and it also has a text here and here. So in this case, they put the text inside the picture. And to make the text more readable, they add some colors to the text. On the other hand, when they can also put the text outside the picture. We may also put the text in a solid color box. And actually, I would say they also apply the principle of consistency because the colors of this highlighted of these stuffs, they are also matches the color of the cherry flowers. But I guess you guys may not go to animation website every day, but you guys may go to the website of UMD. And here is a screenshot of the homepage of UMD. We can see that we also have an image as a background, and we also have some text here. In this case, the professional designers or the designers of this website, they put a semi-transparent text box to display this text. And they also have the text of a solid color. And when I was looking at this website or this page, I think it is pretty good because we have the color, which is red here, and we also have the color of the door. So they are very consistent. And in the meanwhile, we have this boy or girl, I'm not sure, but the clothes, the color of the clothes is the red, which matches the color of the door and the color of this text box. So I think this website, this web page is well designed. So by learning of this, we can make some summaries. So if we have some pictures like this, so actually this is the main character of my backgrounds. So this is a witch of the highlands, like in animation. So anyway, if we have a picture here, we may add the text below it, which is frequently used. And also we may learn from them, so we can have a semi-transparent text box, and then we put the text here. And again, we can just switch the color of black and white. So we may have something like this. On the other hand, we can also directly put the text in the picture. So this one would be less readable. This one is more readable. Also, we can also change the colors. So for this one, I put the color which is similar to her hair. And in this one, I put the color which is similar to her head. So it depends on your preference. Again, we can also put the picture on the middle of the slide. In this case, we can emphasize there's only one thing, so everyone will only focus on this picture, and we can put the text on the bottom. And sometimes we can also make this picture of the whole screen. I would say if put the pictures of the whole screen, it will be more impressive, but people may be less attention to the text. So if I want to emphasize the image itself, I will put it off the whole screen. And here are some of the examples, like for the instrumental analysis slide, we can see in here, I have different examples, and actually the name of this are not quite important. So I just use the white color here. And when I was mentioning each of the device, because I will mention its name, so the text itself is not quite important. But I put it here because when you guys do the review, you guys may just check the name of the field. We can see that this is a pure white color. And in this case, so this is the original text from the picture. In this case, they just use a black glow in the text. Here is another example. That's when we are talking about air pollution and we talk about the carbon monoxide from the stove. So in this case, I want you guys to focus on these two pictures. So I just put them very large, put it here. And another example of the whole picture is when I was talking about my name. I just want to show this scenario. So I put the text very small here. And another example is when I was talking about the dispersion of the ADE equation. In this case, I also want to emphasize this equation. So I put it here. And when I was choosing the colors, first I want to make sure this text is readable. On the other hand, I want to make sure this text is compatible with the colors of this picture. So I just choose white. So basically white and black, they are compatible with every pictures. So they are pretty safe to use. And finally, I want to show this poster. This is one of my favorite posters. So this is a poster of an animation. And I think nowadays, most of the posters, they are made optimal for the cell phones, not for the computer screens. But so this one is a little bit good. So in this case, we can see the main characters are the three girls, of course. So we want to show these three girls. On the other hand, we have different layers of text and image. For example, this one is the largest text. And so this shows the theme of this animation. Then the next level could be something like this. So there are like a little bit more details about this animation. And then we may have a long text here. For the long text, this is semi-transparent. So this, I would say this is level 1, this is level 2, and this is level 3. And then we also have some text hidden here, like without a background. So they are pretty, I would say they are not quite readable, but if you want to read, you can read. So this could be level number 4. So for different peoples, or they want you guys to have different orders to read different content. And also in this case, we can see that the color of this text matches colors of the skirt, and the colors of like this title matches the color of the clothes. So I would say they did a really good job of putting color and text together into one poster. So but I think in academia, it will be very rare to find some academia content poster like this. But in future, when we are working in the industry or in some other places, we may also do some posters like this style instead of very formal official academia style. Actually, when I was searching for the pictures, I find these pictures. So it means this is what I think, and this is what I have done. And I think this is very sad and very negative. I don't like it. Only it is realistic. So I would like to change the order of these two pictures. I would say this is what we think, and this is what we could have done, as long as we have some techniques, and the techniques can improve, can achieve or visualize our ideas. And according to some of my experience, I would say sometimes actually what I can done is better than what I think before my actions. So that's it for today. And again, we have the ending notes. So for quiz 10, it will be this Friday. And we have no assignment for unit 8. But on Thursday, we are going to look at the introduction of the final project together. That will be 10 minutes. And again, I want to emphasize that I will hand out the air samplers during the lecture. So each group should have at least one student attend the in-person class on this Thursday. And that's it.
You study this like outside of like on your own? Did you study this, like take a class, like this design stuff? Is this all stuff you've done on your free time?
Yes.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, thank you. That is my hobby. So I'm interested in that. Okay.
We have 2 quizzes and an assignment for Friday, right?
Because
We have 2 quizzes and an assignment for Friday.
2 phrases. One is for the air pollution.
Yes.